Hey everyone, another question from one of my clients about how do they create a project proposal or a business case that really gets results, gets funding quickly. So I thought back over my career of running IT projects for many years, over 25 years now actually, and thought about all the project proposals I've written and all the business cases I've written, and there's been some learning along the way for sure. But what I started to think about is what are the top three things that really get results from business cases and project proposals. So there's a lot of templates out there in terms of the structure that you need to follow. And I can, if you flick me an email, I can send you that template structure. But what I want to cover today are the real top 3 points that really I've seen work really successfully for getting that funding. So the first one is having too much data, too much about the service or the project you're delivering. Because you're putting this proposal and business case in front of busy executives and they don't have much time. They're too busy to be reading lots and lots of data. Don't get me wrong, you need the data to back up your request, but have an executive summary. Here's the problem, here's the situation, here's the path forward, and here's the ask. Very clearly up front in that executive summary. And more importantly, if you don't know what that is, reach out to them. Reach out to the person funding this project and say, what would you like to see in this business case or project proposal? Because more often than not, they have some very clear ideas about what they want to see done, and they want to give you funding as much as you want to get the funding. So if you're not sure, ask them. And then also make sure you're asking the right person who's approving that funding as well. The amount of times I've spent a long time putting a business case together, only to find it's gone to the wrong person who has to then pass it to someone else to get the approval. And then you have to go through it all again. And in summary on number 1, around too much data, it's about that famous saying in sales around features tell, benefits sell. So always articulate those benefits really clearly up front. So point number 2 is the next steps or actions that are missing from these proposals. So once you've written a really great project proposal or business case, it doesn't give the next steps. How do we move this forward? And there's nothing more frustrating to a busy executive who's just spent a long time going through this proposal, is all on board, really wants to give you that money, but what do they do next? You don't want to create more work for them. You don't want to leave them with more work to do, or you have to come back with more information. So in your business case and your project proposal, always have a very clear, here are the next steps to move this forward. A high-level Gantt chart, propose a schedule of delivery, the team you might need, the skills you might need to take this forward. Make it very easy to move forward once you've done that approval. And then number 3, the walkthrough of the business case or proposal. The amount of times that I've, in my career, sent these business cases or proposals by email and heard nothing back or got a rejection or more questions. And what I learned is never send it by email alone. Always try and do a walkthrough, get a meeting with the buyer, or at least the people who are going to help the buyer make the decision, and walk through the business case with them, starting with that summary that I made in point number 1. Because once you're walking it through with them, you can gauge the audience. And the number 1 question to ask as soon as you get in front of that audience is, has anything changed since we last spoke? Is there anything new going on in the organization or industry or in our world that we need to bring into that project proposal? Because more often than not, once you've started building this project case, things change around it. So always ask up front, has anything changed? And as you're going through the walk through that proposal, always pause for questions. I can't emphasize that enough. The amount of times we just want to get through that proposal and just burn through the words as quickly as possible, and we don't give a chance for the buyer to ask questions. The amount of times I've sat through a half an hour at least presentation, and the buyer's already made a decision to approve it right in the first 5 minutes. Saves you and them a lot of time if you ask those questions up front. And a great tip here is show humility and honesty around this proposal. Show how you've learned from your previous projects to make this proposal a really, really good one. So if you've done a similar project before and perhaps it didn't go as well or you had some lessons learned, be honest up front about that. Say, hey, when I did this before, here's what I learned. Here's why I can make sure this is going to go well because I've learned from my previous project experience. So those are my 3 tips for really getting funding on your project proposals and business cases. The first one is not having too much data up front and having that executive summary. The second one is make sure you have next actions and a way to move this forward, assuming you get approval. And the third one is always walk through the proposal or business case with the buyer. Never just send it and hope you get approval coming back. So I hope that was helpful. And if you'd like to know more, reach out to me. Flick me an email at john@wedeliveryourvision.com, and I'll see you in the next video.